Folks, thank you for tuning in this Wednesday night, September 24th, 2025, where we are going to go to China for an article. Actually, no, I think it's Shreveport, Louisiana. But there's some China stuff in it. I don't know. Sydney, go ahead. Explain this thing.
You're not far off. You're not far off, Jimmy Jr. So, in a not surprising turn of events, a pastor in Louisiana has returned to work at his megachurch after being released from prison for $3.6 million worth of fraud convictions. Kirby John Caldwell had served part of a 6-year sentence in Beaumont for defrauding investors out of nearly $3.6 million in a scheme involving, and here's where you got it right, Jimmy, Chinese bonds. In yet another sentence I never thought I'd say, he was granted early release last year and returned to the pulpit nearly 12 months later. I don't know about you guys, but that testimony must have been a big one. Must have been a real interesting day at church. Caldwell, 67, was sentenced in January 2021 in connection with a scheme that ran between 2013 and 2014 involving investment advisor Gregory Allen Smith of Shreveport, Louisiana. Prosecutors said the two raised $3.5 million from 29 investors through Smith Financial Group, LLC, for bonds issued by the Republic of China before 1949, which had, without looking, how much do you think they're worth? If you had to guess.
Well, zero, I'm going to say.
None. They're not worth anything. Wrong
you
government.
got it, which had no value beyond the memorabilia market. So, financial group, man, they're doing it. They're crushing it. LLC. Prosecutors alleged that he and his co-conspirator wired $25,000 from a church account, a sum that a representative said was later repaid. Court records confirmed Caldwell had paid full restitution to all victims. His wife, Suzette Caldwell, the church's senior pastor, told congregants at the time that she cried a river when he entered prison. And this is coming from Anugrah Kumar from the Christian Post, their contributor, from Sunday, August 10th, 2025. So
that the country from which those bonds come doesn't even exist.
Doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. And the thing is, it's not even like the bank, like if there was a regime change, right, that perhaps the bank took on a different name and maybe the funds were transferred. No, this went, whatever those things were worth, went straight to the communist government, straight to the Communist Party. Like these things were gone for a long time. So I think it's man, I don't want to say it's hilarious.
The lawyers didn't think so. Apparently, they weren't very savvy lawyers that were involved in this.
This was intentional. I think the lawyers knew that this was garbage.
Well, here's what I want to know.
Here's
what I want to know. I was really impressed when it said that he had paid off all of his debts. Yeah. Did he pay them with the Chinese bonds? That's what I want to know. Are all of those people about to find out that those bonds are fake? Is that what's going on here?
I wonder if he took the money that they gave him, right, and then just invested it, and then had the money there. It matured over time while he was in prison and got out and was like, hey, here's your money back. But here's the kicker for me. Okay, why did this pastor? So while his partner was like an investment advisor, the partner was a lawyer. Right. So the partner in the scheme was his lawyer. It wasn't just any lawyer. So this Kirby John Caldwell and his lawyer, why would this pastor have a lawyer on retainer? And who the hell's paying for that? If I were in that congregation, right, I'd be like, dude, why is my money every week going to your lawyer and then you're selling bonds of currency that doesn't exist anymore for banks that have been long dead for 80 years? If I'm a congregation, I'm pretty pissed. But
nobody said he was a good advisor. Nobody said he was a good advisor.
So Jonathan, tell me about
maybe the kind of bond was, maybe they're into bondage. You never know.
Jonathan, tell me about this guy going back to church. I mean, what are your thoughts on him waltzing back in and just starting where he left off?
Oh, man. I just think that people are. I think his wife, who is the head pastor of that church, had kept them prepped, kept them, kept them lubed on his side, sympathy to him, because that way he could come back, and she kept indoctrinating them throughout the years.
Praying every Sunday, I'm sure, for him.
Praying every Sunday and making sure they all forgave him and all this other shit. All the typical Christian nonsense, to make sure that they accepted him back, and so he could still keep sucking the parish dry and keep all the money. It's just like it's always a scam. It's just a big scam. Now, granted, these were Methodists, which is why these people, this particular pastor had a good reputation going. My question is, why would you get involved in this when it's obviously going to ruin your reputation? Yeah, if not with your parish, at least outside your parish. Outside your church.
You know what? That's a good question. Good segue, Sydney. Why did this guy even get involved with this? I mean, yeah, he's got the record, right? Seems like he's got a large following. He's got enough money to keep a lawyer on retainer, allegedly. Why start selling Chinese? And I think he had turned around and said that he was selling it as memorabilia, right? But in any case, why get involved with this stuff?
So stick with me. I'm going to tell you a short story.
Okay.
My brother used to be an undercover security for a very, very hoity-toity retailer. He was the guy who followed you around if he thought he saw something go in your bag that you didn't pay for, but wearing street clothes and stuff. And he said that some of the people who stole the most merchandise from this department store were some of the richest people that shopped there. For example, there was a Ritz-Carlton hotel connected to this store. And he said that people who literally lived at the Ritz-Carlton would be caught stealing. They would be wearing fur coats, and they would catch merch on the inside of the coats that wasn't even stuff these people could use. Like, for example, I remember he said once there was a woman who ended up being in her 90s, and she had Victoria's Secret panties kind of thing stuck in her coat. She's not going to wear them. And he said that every time they were asked why they did it, they were literally just bored. At a certain point, you feel like you just can't get caught, or maybe you want to get caught a little bit. And even though they don't actually want to get caught, I think the thrill is actually a drive for a lot of people. I've heard the same thing about Dubai, that you can get involved in some really weird stuff because people are so rich that they've bought everything you can possibly do, see, rent, hire. And so you have to get a little bit.
Are fucking weird. Okay. P. Diddy, weird. There's a endless supply of just fucking really weird rich people who have way too much money and they don't know what to do.
Or even if you don't have a ton of money, wherever you're at, like this gentleman, you have the highest authority. So and you think to yourself, I can do whatever I want. I've got the God on my side. I've got church on my side. I can do whatever I want.
And that's what they probably figure he can get rid of it, right? Or he can get away with it, right? The charges, you know what I thought when I was reading his response to his charges? He said, he's just surprised it was wire fraud. And I'm like,
it's just fraud.
Yeah, it was just fraud. How wire fraud?
Why wire fraud?
It seemed to him like the biggest shocker was, I didn't get charged with the actual crime I thought I was committing. It's actually wire fraud instead. And then, what kind of lawyer doesn't even know the law that you're breaking?
9 times out of 10, it's wire fraud.
This is Jonathan. You said it earlier. This has got to be the worst lawyer you could possibly hire. The lawyer didn't even know the law they were breaking. I mean, hell, if you're going to be my business partner and you're a lawyer, and then we're going to be criminals together, you better be able to tell me what law we're breaking. Right?
He's like, I'm a family lawyer. I'm a family lawyer. I don't know any of this. I'm just.
Yeah. So, hey, look, just like you said, Sydney, the kleptomaniac stuff, the boredom stuff,
untouchable power.
I also think there's another element here. And, after all, this is a pastor. This is a career swindler. This is somebody who sells people a lie. He's a con artist.
Snake oil salesman.
Yeah, and he's just used to kind of being sleazy. And selling people a lie from the pulpit is no different than selling them a devalued Chinese bond, that comes from a country that no longer exists, and telling people, oh, this is the next big thing. This is going to be worth a lot of money, when apparently it's not. So, Jonathan, how does that strike you? Does his habits as a pastor, do they factor into his continued criminal activity?
I think it may or may not. It depends on his mindset. It depends. I'm not a mind reader, but I would think that he would know better. I thought it was a line in their contract, with God, thou shalt not steal. Wasn't that a line in their contract?
But that's for us. That's not for the leadership. That's just for us. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. I didn't
sin
catch
for thee,
that
but
part.
not for me. Yeah.
Yeah. But so, I think that, if he really is, and I doubt that a lot of these pastors are actually religious. I think that they're really just con artists,
businessmen,
and you catch them with their hands in the cookie jar all the time. We've had a lot of these kind of stories on nonprofits. So it doesn't surprise me at all, that if his mindset wasn't on his deity and he was just out to make money, which it looks like he was, then he falls into that. I'm a con man. I do that for a living. I'm just doing another con because I thought I could make a bunch of money at it. I wasn't very skilled at it because it's not my lane. Mm-hmm. I'm not a professional fraudster other than with religious fraud. This is a whole financial fraud is its own animal, and I thought I could dip my toes in there, but I got caught. So the question is, to my mind, if I'm going to con myself something, do a con job on a financial market, I need to get a financial guy to do it with me. That's probably the only lesson he learned, out of the whole thing. I can't say that because I'm not a mind reader, but it's just, to me, it just seems like obvious that he should have known. And if he didn't know, then shame on him for being a bad criminal. He's just bad at it.
That's his story anyway. That's his story. I mean, he tells his congregation that he didn't know that he was committing wire fraud. And that brings me back. I just think he didn't know he was committing wire fraud because he thought he was committing something else. But I
was going to say that's not an admission of innocence. That's not an admission of innocence.
He probably just was like, oh, you know what? That's a good excuse. Actually, I could just tell them I didn't know I was doing that. But I thought it was interesting when he came back. So Sydney, tell me how you interpret this, because I've got my own interpretation. I can't cut the guy any slack. But hear me out. He comes back to church, and then he goes to his congregation. He says, I went to Beaumont and I looked around and I couldn't find nobody. And that to me says, he went to jail and he felt very alone. Okay, so what does that say about his jail experience and now him being free and back in his congregation? How do you read that?
So, one, I think he's lying. I don't think he found nobody. I think he probably fit in just fine, right? Like the pipeline of Christianity to prison is a very broad one. And you're going to tell me that prisoners wouldn't have respect for a pastor if they, you know what I mean? Like everybody goes to prison, finds God.
Especially if he's a criminal too. Like a criminal pastor, hey, you got major street cred. Street cred.
Well, especially when you think about this, what's to stop them from saying, God put you here to talk to these people? God actually put you here because your word is needed here. You're his Job. He's putting you to serve this time, to serve these people, and to serve him. So there's that whole angle. Two, the number of times that I've been in a church or a church setting, a religious setting of some point, and somebody gets up to talk about that bad thing they did. that's weighing really heavy on their heart, and Christ is telling them to be the story, the witness. And then the lights go down and the band plays like a light tune underneath their speech, so that there's like that feeling. And I'm sure he gave the
performance of his life. Still not saying much, right? Still not saying much, but of his life, I'm sure they welcomed him with open arms. He went to God has a plan for everyone. He went to prison for a reason. He made a mistake. It wasn't his fault. You know, the devil works in so many ways. And you know what, though? He's glad he went to prison because he's not above men and he's not above God. So I'll serve my time. You just see what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure he was a martyr in 10 different ways for this church. I'm sure, very much like you guys talked about earlier, the wife probably had him at the top of the prayer list for a whole year. They were celebrating his return. He gets to talk to everybody about, you know, but well, from my time inside, here's what I know about prisoners and sinners. You know, from my every sermon now is about from his time inside, living with the sinners. So I think he's still grifting. I think he's still just grifting.
And that's the thing too. Like, I think he couldn't wait to get back into his, you know, sea of victims. And I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to find some other way to keep this going, because like we talked about, you know, I think this guy is on a high. I mean, this is the presidential pastor, right? This is a guy who got away with a $3.6 million scheme, essentially, because he did what? Well, he did 3 years, but he's able to come back and resume his job. Now, let me ask you this. How many of us regularly can, or how many of us out there in general can do 3 years in prison for a crime and then come back and have our old job back? Right? Probably none of us.
Especially if you went to jail for theft from that job.
Yes.
You are ineligible for rehire at best.
Yes. And so here he is. He's back and he's like, suckers, you know, like and, you know, Jonathan, you're right, because the article talks about how his wife constantly spoke on his behalf, was probably his mouthpiece from prison, and probably was setting them up, because they have members of the congregation in this interview saying, oh, praise Jesus that, you know, our pastor's back. We're happy to have him back, this, that. And you know, unfortunately, they're just welcoming back the same guy, you know, that took advantage of them in the first place.
Doesn't that sound familiar?
Yeah.
How many times they're going to do that? You know, how many times are they going to give this guy a pass? Unfortunately, we have seen how much that can actually happen in other situations where, you know, not just religious ones, you know, and that's the thing, is that human beings, being human beings, they always want that social interaction. They tend to want somebody to take the energy of thinking about what to do and leave them to just follow them doing it. It's not that we're a species of followers, it's that we're a species of conservation of energy, especially brain energy.
Yep.
We think fast every chance we can. We take that automatic response so that we don't have to spend the energy of thinking deeply about something. It burns calories.
Yeah.
I can tell you now, just on this show, my blood sugar's gone down by about 13 points since I started. And that's because if you use your brain like that, you know, it's going to burn calories.
That's why I'm so skinny.
Yeah.
Because I'm always thinking about smart stuff.
Well,
smart stuff.
Jonathan, you know, I'm sorry to hear that. You've probably burned through most of your brain cells, and that's why your body's attacking your sugar count now. No, I'm just kidding. But what the hell?
I got 2 or 3 left. There's not many more to go.
He's got the one playing the violin as the ship's going down.
But yeah. So not only are we a species of, you know, conservation, but of safety and security, right? And that plays a major part in our decision making, but in the types of structures we support as well. It's the basis for political theory, international relations theory. It's the basis for how we arrange our societies. You know, which structures are going to be better off, and a lot of people, you know, have been convinced over multiple lifetimes. You know, if you consider they're told in their own lifetime, and then they're told by their parents and by their grandparents, and it's kind of just generational information that's passed down, that the church is one that will give you the safety and security that you need, right? And so they pour everything into it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please interrupt.
Something else that comes to mind as well is this is Louisiana, right? Or at least some of the people are from Louisiana. Mm-hmm. I'm from Arkansas. I've lived in Tennessee. I don't know if you guys have ever spent a lot of time in the South, but
yes, I have.
A prevalent, a prevalent, and it's infuriating, but I see it everywhere. I see it on relationship subreddits. I see it in real family scenarios. The number of times that a person will say, hey, I have a real legitimate grievance, and everyone else will go, just let it go, keep the peace. And the person who did the thing is never the one who has to keep the peace. They are always the one who gets to wear white to the wedding, gets to open a present at somebody else's birthday party, gets to this, gets to that, gets to, get engaged at somebody's special event, whatever. It's always the people doing the crazy, selfish things that get to keep doing it. And the people who have the audacity to say, I don't think I'm going to invite, Uncle Mark to my wedding because he makes such a scene and he gets drunk and he ruins everything every time. And the family goes, oh, but his feelings.
Yeah.
But keep the peace. But what would grandma say? And so I imagine all it takes is a couple of, now God tells you to forgive, and you're not going to forgive your own pastor.
Yeah.
I bet if you pulled a lot of those people aside independently, they would have much different feelings than what they've been showing through their attendance at church. And I would also be interested to see how many people left the church when he came back, because they're not going to announce that number. But I think there are probably a lot of people that are like, well, I guess I got to forgive, but I've got a lot of questions.
And in the South, that kind of dynamic in those societies is incredibly dangerous, because people don't, the Deep South, Shreveport I've been to, I've lived in the panhandle of Florida. There are not a lot of resources. Okay. Everybody's unhealthy.
Is a big resource.
Everybody's unhealthy. Education is terrible. Poverty is high. Drug use is high. Mental health cases are high. Right. And so
single parent households are high.
Exactly. And there's not a lot of places for people to go. So if you start rubbing your society the wrong way, and should you be spit out somewhere where you can't take care of yourself, well, now you're in danger, right? And so that is why, like we talked about in the article on Monday night, where churches really benefit from preying on the downtrodden, the uneducated. This is just another example of that, and they're going to stick together, and they're not going to speak out, even though deep down they know the difference between right and wrong, and they probably know that their pastor is on the wrong side. But if they speak out, man, they could be the ones suffering. They could be the ones that are left out of the society. And that is dangerous, because, again, we are a society that we rely on our safety, right? We rely on
as atheists, we've seen that time and time again with people who have deconstructed their faith, the actual tragedies of being outside of their social safety net,
right?
And we see that on and on and on about real tragedy happening because people are outcasts in that society, and how dangerous it is for them.
Yeah, and
we see it all the time.
I think that makes us qualified to speak about that. I don't think that people on the other side of the fence who we're talking about might realize that as much as the people who have gone through it and who have dealt with being the black sheep in the family or lost all their friends, so it's sad, but I think that element is very much at play here. Look, the church said, the Bible says we got to take the pastor back. The pastor's back now. I'm not going to raise my hand in opposition. Are you who wants to raise? Like, it's just not happening. Not in the Deep South. Not in Louisiana, and not over. I mean, let's face it, Chinese currency. There is a great deal. There's a great deal of ethnocentrism versus Asian people from the Christian community. There really is, and when I was a Christian, Asians got it the worst. And I've heard pastors and other people make fun of Asian people, the most devout people doing the accents, making the faces, and for a congregation, to have to pick their battles over right and wrong, and the battle they're choosing to fight is over Chinese memorabilia,
expired currency,
not even going to register. So we're going to wrap it up there, guys. I really appreciate you guys digging into society and culture with me today. This was an awesome episode, really good discussion. And, be careful who you hire as an attorney, should you need one someday.
There you go.
Yeah. I think that's the big takeaway. If your attorney doesn't know that what laws you're breaking, then you're just another stupid criminal. And that's it. So, folks, don't forget to tune in on Friday, the 26th, where we will have more nonprofits for you. Thanks.